Shalom. Welcome to Hebraic Awakening. We are talking about our trauma, and first we want to know what it is and how it works so that we can effectively break these generational curses that are plaguing us. All right, as a community, especially a Black community, we must break these generational curses of trauma so that the next generation can have a fighting chance. So if you have not seen my first video talking about the chemicals that help us to bond, you want to check that out. Today we're going to talk about why we seek out traumatizing relationships. Have you ever asked yourself, or have you ever seen someone that you know they're in a toxic relationship, and not only are they in a toxic relationship, they keep getting into toxic relationships, or you are the person that keeps getting into toxic relationships? It doesn't matter if it's romantic, at the workplace, your friends, whatever. You are always attracting the wrong type of people. And as I tell my children and people who ask me for any type of counsel or advice, if everything around you is negative and you are always in a negative situation, the common denominator is you. You are the problem, right? And as a person who have and is overcoming trauma in my life, in trauma bonding, that is the first lesson that I learned. I could not figure out why I was attracting a lot of toxic people, why everything was happening to me. And the Most High gave me a really hard conversation. And one of the things was that I was the problem. I was the common denominator in the problem. So I had to go on a journey as to why I was the problem and slowly begin to overcome it. It didn't happen overnight. This is going to be a journey and a process, right? So why are you seeking out bad relationships? Why everything in your life is toxic? You pick a job, it's toxic. You pick friends, it's toxic. You pick romantic partners, it's toxic. And then you say it's everybody else. Okay? And what the Most High told me was I love to play the victim. But that is for another teaching. Right now, we're just trying to understand why. So as I've stated previously, when you are a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade, trauma is just passed down to you, right? You don't even sometimes have to do anything to just have these traumatizing toxic traits. But today we're going to talk about why you have toxic relationships. Why are you seeking them out? And usually when you have a childhood traumatic experience, it does not always have to be sexual. Okay, so trigger warning. And if you know your triggers, please, know how to move and process, the information that I'm getting ready to share. We're not getting graphic, but some words are just triggering to people. And we have to talk about knowing our triggers because a lot of people do not know their triggers. But your toxic relationships that happen to you as a child, it doesn't have to be a sexual assault. It could just be toxic, emotionally abusive behaviors from your mama, your grandmama, your daddy, your cousin, your uncle, a school teacher, police, anything as a child that traumatized you and you had a relationship with this person. And this person is, negative talk, right? Saying things that are inappropriate, and then come back and they are rewarding you. They are apologizing. They are showing you affection. And then they go back to the negative traits. They speak to you crazy, right? They treat you crazy. and then they go back to showing you some love. So this creates this bond, right? Because you, as a child, no matter how young or teenager or maybe young adult you may have experienced your first traumatizing relationship, no matter the age when you are young and that is your first experience like that, you are going to seek out that experience throughout your life. Sometimes people are stuck in traumatizing relationships for the remainder of their lives, because as a community, I always say we want to pray to the Most High and we want Him to fix it without doing the work, right? And I say it bluntly, we are lazy when it comes to our mental health. And I know that we live here in North America and they make it really hard, right, to tend to your mental health, but it can be done. It must be done if we as a community are going to break this cycle. So you seek out traumatizing relationships because you are familiar with that as a child. And that goes on and on and on through love relationships, through friendships, through the workplace. And even your work friends are toxic. And you have just become settled. And it is familiar to you. You know, I used to say, man, sometimes we act like if we're not being abused, that we're not comfortable. But that is a true statement. You know, I would say that and didn't even understand what I was saying. But sometimes we are very comfortable in abusive situations. And it is because your brain is bonded to that type of abuse. So we see ourselves seeking out or bonding with groups, right? Whether it's churches, assemblies, synagogues, fraternities, or sororities, right? We go to groups, especially in the frats and the sororities, and we are abused, okay? I went to an HBCU, okay? I already know. And then you are loved bombed, right? And so you have this abusive love relationship going on, and you think it's cool because now you've bonded with a group of people that you call your brotherhood or your sisterhood. But I'm telling you, as descendants of transatlantic slave trade, we think that's cool. We think that's cool. And it's because it's familiar to us. It is familiar to us. Or we at a church or assembly or synagogue, and your leader, your spiritual leader, is love bombing you, telling you all the good things, and then get up and talk about you, or mistreat you, or overlook you, or say backhanded comments to you. And you literally take up for the leader. I've seen this so many times, and I said, you know what? I refuse. I refuse in my older age. I cannot do it. Once I spot it, I'm done. I'm cutting it off, right? And I'm going to make sure that it's trauma bonding, because conflict in relationships and trauma bonding are two different things. You're going to have conflict in relationships, so you don't have to divide over conflicts. It is how the conflict is being handled that makes it trauma bonding. And usually these leaders in these type of places are manipulative. They gaslight you, and then they love bomb you and tell you all good things and give you awards and gifts. And you are trauma bonded, even to your spiritual community, right? Your workplace, your boss is some toxic bosses. Again, there's a difference between conflict and trauma bonding. And a lot of us are trauma bonded to our bosses because we are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, and we're used to abuse. It is passed down in our genes, in our DNA. And so we have to break this. We have to recognize it first, because it's hard to break something that you are not recognizing. You're not recognizing that you're bonding with friends, especially women. We get this double dose, okay, of the craziness, the chemical brainstorm, and we sit and we trauma bond. And now we talk about women. We talk about trauma. We talk about relationships. We talk about how our men are no good and we don't have solutions. We don't have any answers. We get on the phone. There's no uplifting anything. There's no positive talk. We talk about people and situations that we don't like and we bond. And then we make each other responsible for each other's feelings. And I used to say, am I in a lesbian relationships? Because it feels like I'm in a lesbian relationships with some of these women, but it wasn't, because it wasn't sexual. But what it was trauma bonding, and I didn't have the right words. I didn't know what it meant. I knew that it felt like I was bonded and I had to be responsible for somebody's feelings, and then they would do backhanded comments. Ooh. That's really is a pet peeve of mine now that I'm healed. Backhanded comments and compliments from women. Passive aggressive compliments. Envy and jealousy. It all stems from trauma. And that works my nerve because I have bonded, trauma bonded with women who did that to me. And because I came from some abuse, and they knew that, it's like they used it against me, and they would do this love bombing and then manipulate and gaslight. Oh my goodness. So it's a pet peeve of mine. So women, we tend to trauma bond, and we tend to sit on the phone and talk about problems and talk about each other and talk about assemblies and talk about churches and talk about pastors and talk about people's relationships. And it's just not healthy. And then we don't have any solutions. We're not praying for them. We're not giving no wisdom or no counsel. We're just talking because we're traumatized. So you got to break these bonds. But first, you have to recognize what they are. And then you have to be truthful with yourself. Why am I seeking out traumatizing relationships? So this is our homework. To ask ourselves, if we are in any type of trauma bonding relationships, why are we continuing to stay in it? And why are we seeking out? Because you could kind of end that relationship, or that relationship will end itself. The person will walk away and get tired of messing with you, and you will go on to the next familiar traumatizing relationship. Trust me, there are people that I personally know that are in traumatizing relationship after relationship. Some have been in the same traumatizing relationship for 30, 40 years. Whew. So I hope that this bit of information is helping you to put the puzzle pieces together with the chemicals that bond you to your abuser. And now while you are seeking out abusive relationships. All right. So until the next video, shalom, everyone.